Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, lots to discuss, but first let's take a look at a couple of political warnings issued yesterday on the Sunday Politics. First up, Ken Livingstone, who was asked by Andrew about Labour's poor poll ratings.
By what time do you start to get worried if the polls haven't begun to turn around?
Oh, I mean, I think they will turn around because
but
Jeremy...
when do you start to get worried if they haven't?
If in a year's time it was still as bad as this, we'd all be worried. I don't think it will be, because Jeremy and his team are going to focus on the economy, and that's what wins every election. Do you remember Bill Clinton, it's the economy, stupid. That is true.
Ken Livingstone, another Ken Clarke, also appeared on the Sunday Politics yesterday. Here he is being asked about Theresa May's future should she decide to pursue what he calls a hard Brexit.
You seem to be quoted in the Mail on Sunday this morning as saying that if the Prime Minister signs too much with the hard Brexit group, she won't survive. Is that your view?
It is, because I think only a minority of the House of Commons think it's all frightfully simple and you could just leave. She would be in a minority if she started adopting the views of John Redwood or Ian Duncan Smith. It's quite clear that a majority of the present House of Commons does not agree with that, and actually it would be pretty catastrophic if that's all we were going to do when we turn up and face 27 other nation states and the biggest free market in the world and tell them we're just pulling out.
Edvezi, is Ken Clarke right? Theresa May could be brought down if she sides with Eurosceptic headbangers in her party.
Well, no, I don't think he's right in the sense, well, first of all, I don't think she will be brought down. I think she's in a pretty unassailable position. She's very popular with MPs and indeed incredibly popular out in the country, not just with voters, but also with Tory party members. So
but my question is if she sides with Eurosceptic MPs, because that's what he's saying, Ken Clarke, that if she goes for a hard Brexit...
I don't think she will. But I could dodge the question in this way, which is to say...
We usually dodge the question, so whichever way.
I don't think she'll go for a hard Brexit.
Ah, well, that's my next question. So you don't think that she will take the UK out of the single market?
Well, again, you're asking me, you're always inviting me to dodge the question. I think it is quite clear we're going to come out of the single market, we're going to come out of the customs union. I don't call that a hard Brexit, I call that Brexit. You can't leave the European Union without leaving those two elements, because you need to control immigration and you also need to have your own free trade treaties.
What do you think's hard Brexit then?
Well, I mean, I think these terms are unhelpful. I think a hard Brexit would be, by and large, an ideological exit from the European Union, which didn't take into account some of the important factors, such as the one we're going to discuss later, about the rights of EU nationals living in the UK. So I would like to see a give-and-take Brexit. And if you want me to move closer, perhaps, to Ken's position, what I would urge the Prime Minister, he says as a humble backbencher, the one thing I would like to see change is some of the rhetoric. I'd like to see some reaching out to the Remainers, because there is nothing wrong with having voted Remain, believing we're better off in the European Union, and raising your concerns about what the future holds. That is a debate and a discussion.
Well, on that issue of tone and reaching out to Remainers, let's talk about Trousergate in a sort of sartorial failure to reach out across the divide. Former Education Secretary Nicky Morgan criticising the Prime Minister for those £995 pair of brown leather trousers. Bitter chocolate, I think they were described as in one of the papers. And consequently, Nicky Morgan was then banned from a meeting she was due to attend at Number 10. Do you think that was the right response?
Well, I was surprised to see those texts appear in the newspapers. I don't know whether they were crumbs off the Russian intelligence service's main work at the moment, which appears to be hacking the American system. And this is text
from Fiona Hill, from Theresa May's Chief of Staff, or one of them?
Well, it's entirely... I mean, Fiona Hill is... I don't really want to get into the row between Nicky and Fiona Hill. I think, Nicky...
Was it appropriate for those texts to be sent so that Nicky Morgan was banned?
Well, people send texts to each other all the time. And what I learned as a minister is that people in Number 10, particular senior figures in Number 10, do act with an element of authority, and it's up to them to make a judgment on whether people should or should not be included in meetings. I think it's a very unfortunate dispute. I wish it hadn't happened. I do admire Nicky Morgan for standing up for what she believes in, but I think in this case, playing the person, as it were, rather than the ball, is a dangerous
So you
way
say
to
that
go.
Fiona Hill does speak for the Prime Minister when she issued that text saying, "Don't bring that woman, Nicky Morgan, to number 10 again." Is that the way
Prime
to
Minister?
behave?
I don't know whether the Prime Minister would have been at this meeting, and the Prime Minister has a lot of huge issues that she has to deal with.
But do you think she
and,
sanctioned it?
It's entirely. I don't know. I genuinely don't. I doubt it very much. I think Fiona Hill, as a Chief of Staff, is perfectly entitled to make her position clear on who should or should not be at an internal meeting in number 10. I think it's unfortunate we've got into this position where we are, as I say, playing effectively kind of personality politics and moving away from the issues which are incredibly important and need to be discussed.
Let's talk to Jess Phillips about Jeremy Corbyn and
Not
the party
trousers.
Not trousers. So we're moving away,
Jess
thankfully,
should have
from
a word
clothes.
on trousers.
No, I think we've had enough of trousers and handbags, for that matter.
Quite.
I mean, the party sunk to 25% of the nation's support in a survey 3 days ago. Its worst showing in opposition since 1983. Lost its deposit, as you know, in the Richmond by-election, was pushed to fourth in Sleaford. So yesterday, Ken Livingstone said, if it is as bad as this in a year's time, we would all be worried. Are you worried now, or do you agree with him?
I mean, I agree with his substantive point that if we're still in this position in a year's time, that, we're going to have to look at what we're going to do about that.
Change
I'm
the leader
worried,
in your case?
but I'm worried already. We need a good run-in. The election is not that far away, and I think that the Labour Party needs a good shake after the two by-elections. We have to be careful not to read too much into by-elections that are either won or lost by the favourite party in the area, because they are unusual things. But, yeah, I think we need to be worrying now.
What would you do?
Well, for a start off, the Labour Party needs very much to have a much clearer position on certain things, and we need to act together, is the truth.
Is Brexit one of those things, having a clear position on Brexit? Because on the doorstep, anecdotally, the message seemed to be that people didn't know what Labour's position actually was regarding Brexit.
I think both of those particular by-elections became very much a further referendum on Brexit with a 1-1 draw in both cases. So in those particular elections, I think in a general election, whether it's post-Article 50, post-hard Brexit, whatever's going to happen, I think the Brexit message won't necessarily be the only thing you have to be clear on. But absolutely, the Labour Party is in a difficult position where we have MPs in, very, very heavily Remain areas and MPs in very heavily Leave areas.
Would you give it a year, or do you think something needs to be done sooner?
I think I'd give it a year because, frankly, I'm tired of the Labour Party sticking its finger in its eye and talking about itself. I'm interested in talking to the people behind the doors, not the people in front of them when we're knocking.
Diane Abbott said the poll gap with the Tories would be closed by this time next year. Do you believe that? 17 points.
Well, I mean, if you'd asked me if we'd be where we are in world politics 18 months ago, I wouldn't have had the blindest
you wouldn't be
clue
alone.
that it would be here. So it's very difficult for me to say what will happen in a year's time. But at the moment, we seem on a similar trajectory for quite some time, and we need a kick up the bum to sort that out.
All right, on that point, we'll move on.